So we've written out the text in ink on parchment, and we've actually written out according to most
Take it over
opinions.
there or something. Huh? Let me get
Um,
it.
according to most opinions, we've written out two texts. We've written out first of all a sort of a something that's a bit like a um im lo shachav ish otach, if no man has had intercourse with you, or if you have, and then which is a bit like an oath, and then but it's prefaced with the words that the the priest will make her swear, and then the priest says again, "V'hishpia hakohen," the priest will make the woman swear, and then he makes us. Then he announces this terrible oath: "Yitain Hashem otach la'alav l'shvoya b'toch hamech." The Lord make you a curse and an oath among your people, and these terrible things will happen to you. And right at the end, the woman says, Amen, Amen. She says Amen twice. And the Mishnah asks, after we've written this text out, the Mishnah asks, why does she respond Amen twice? And it begins, I mean, it's very interesting. The Mishnah begins, Velamahi Omeret Amen. Why does she say Amen? But the sense is clearly that she's saying Amen twice. Because the Mishnah then brings up a whole set of pairs. Amen al ha'ala, Amen al ha'ala, Amen ha'shvua. Amen over the curse. Those are the terrible things that will happen to her. Amen ha'shvua. Amen over the earth, over the oath. She swears either she's guilty or she's not guilty. Amen me'ish zeh, Amen me'ish acher. Amen with respect to this man, and Amen with respect to any other man. That is really interesting because we're now extending the kind of the scope of this process from her husband, who was jealous and who warned her in front of witnesses and stay away, not to be secluded with a certain man, and she was in front of witnesses. We're extending from this particular situation into any other kind of situation, and it carries on. Amen shelo nidmeti ve'im nidmeti yavovi. Amen that I have not been defiled, but if I have been defiled, these curses will come on me. Amen shelo satiti arusam nusua. Amen that I didn't go astray as a betrothed woman or a married woman, v'shomeret yavam, or as a shomeret yavam, someone who's waiting to, she's waiting to marry her brother-in-law after the death of her husband, uchenusa, or someone who's gone in. This refers to someone who's gone into her brother-in-law's house. So her husband has died, and she's gone into her brother-in-law's house, but she clearly hasn't consummated the marriage with her brother-in-law yet. And these are all situations which are different, completely different from the first situation that we first discussed, where she was warned in front of witnesses and she secluded herself with the same person she was warned about in front of witnesses. And by the way, you know, some of these relationships might not even be forbidden. So Rabbi Akiva holds that someone who is waiting for Yibum, in other words, her husband has died, she hasn't performed chalitza, and she hasn't performed Yibum. So she's kind of in this in-between state. And Rabbi Akiva holds that she's actually forbidden to any man. But that is not the halakha. The halakha doesn't go according to that. So why should we be talking about sexual intercourse while she's a shomeret yavam, while she's waiting for chalitza or yibum, when this is not even a crime? And Rabbi Meir is even going to extend this into the future. Rabbi Meir Omer Amen shelo nidmeti ve'amen shelo etzameh. Rabbi Meir says, Amen that I have not been defiled, and Amen that I will not be defiled in the future. In other words, this test of the bitter waters that I'm taking on myself will not only test my past behavior, but it will test my future behavior. If anything happens in the future, then the curses that are enunciated, that are written down on this scroll and then blotted out, and which I'm going to swallow, the curses that I'm taking into my body. I mean, really interesting symbolism here, by the way, because she's accused, of course, of having intercourse with someone she's not married to, and which is about an exchange of body fluids. And she's going to take these fluids into her body, which are going to poison her. So really, really interesting sort of juxtaposition of symbolism here. And she's swearing that these fluids she's going to take into her body will have will curse her, even if she becomes involved with another man in the future. Very, very interesting extension. But the Bartanura comments here about Gilgul Shavua. Gilgul literally means rolling over, but I translate it as extension. It's, you can roll over alone and you can extend the time on alone by rolling it over. That's the best analogy for Gilgul. And the rabbis have a concept of Gilgul Shavua, that if someone comes into court to take an oath on matter A, the claimant who's required them to take an oath can actually require them to take to extend the oath to cover matter B. In other words, once you come into court to take an oath, it's a bit like coming into court under cross-examination, I think, in the modern law now. Once you come into court to take an oath on matter A, you can actually be forced to take an oath on a related matter B, even if this wasn't the related, even if this wasn't the issue on which you originally came into court to take the oath. In other words, we can extend the scope of an oath during a legal process. And that extension is called Gilgul Shavua, an oath extension. And the Bartanura just notes, well, he via Gilgul Shavua, via oath extension, he actually extends the oath to unchastity while betrothed. The Mishnah said, Amen shelos nasatiti arusa. Amen, that I didn't go astray while I was betrothed. So we're talking about well before the time of the warning. We're talking about even before the proper marriage took place. We're extending backwards in time. And the Bartanura is saying via oath extension, we're sort of extending the process of the Sotah right the way back here before there was any warning and before there was any exclusion. And he then observes, and he's following the Gemara here, Umikan legilgul shivua min Torah. And from here, oath extension is from the Torah. So Gilgul Shivua, oath extension, works in general in civil law. But we learn it out actually from this example in the Sotah. We learn it out from the Sotah. It's a very broad oath. And the Mishnah is going to finish the chapter 2, by objecting, by putting some limitations, if you like, on this extension. So we're going to extend so far, but no further. Hakol shavim she'eino matneima al kodem shehit ares. Everybody agrees that he can't take account of her behavior before she was betrothed. Velo al me'achar shenit garesh, shetit garesh. And he can't take account of her behavior after she was divorced. So maybe obviously, I mean, I think before betrothal is kind of obvious. That's before betrothal to him. But let's say after divorce from him, maybe he remarried her later. Or maybe after divorce from someone else and then he married her. The point is, at the period after she's a free woman. before she's betrothed, and she's a free woman after she's divorced. So while there are issues of impropriety, or you could say immorality, in having a sexual relationship with someone she's not married to, there's no crime. It's not, it's not a crime, and he cannot include it. He cannot include it in the implications of drinking the bitter waters. There's nothing to do with their marriage. There's nothing to do with their marriage. And the Mishnah continues. Nistara l'achar. Nistara l'achar. So she secluded herself with somebody else. So this must be after he divorced her. So he's divorced her. Nistara l'achar. She's secluded with somebody else. Venit mate, and she sounds like she has a sexual relationship with him. After that, he took her back. He married her again. Lo haya matneh ima. He can't take account of it. In other words, what she does when she's not married to him is nothing to do with the Sotah ritual. And the Mishnah is actually going to sort of firm up and close the chapter with the general principle. Zehakla. This is the general principle. Kol shetiba'el ve'lo hayta asuralo. Lo haya matneh ima. He can't take account for her, anyone with whom she had intercourse when she would not have been prohibited to him. The Mishnah is saying if this intercourse had not made her prohibited to her husband, then it's nothing to do with him. He cannot take account of it in terms of his discussion of the Sotah process, and of course the ramifications of this terrible curse, which he's saying amen to, twice.